Hello, this is Adrian from my channel Random Drop. I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV quite a bit lately. I've been getting really into this Relic grind. I am a couple of steps into it now, nearing the end. And I really just kind of wanted to go over my overall thoughts on the grind and some of the things and how I feel about it overall. Some things I wish I knew before I had, started of it, and some tips I have just from my overall experiences doing it. First things first is, yes, you do have to do Bozja to get this far in the grind. You will have to do Castrum. Doing Bozja does not take too much time. It's more of getting a Castrum run. It's a harder pain. People in general have been pretty helpful lately, more than before, right? Now that more people need it, there are those groups for sure. But yes, it is a requirement. Don't get it wrong. Bozja is not Eureka in any way. It is a lot more fun, and if you have not set foot in it, you might actually enjoy some of it. It is a new type of content, and is doing some weird and wacky shit. But yeah, you really don't have to engage with it much if you are just in it for the Relic grind, right? But there's a ton of other stuff to do, and there's videos out there of like what's all in there and the abilities and all that. But yes, you do have to do Bozja. In terms of the first step, you have to collect 15 memories from either the Crystal Tower raids or the critical engagements in Bozja. I did a mixture of these two, really. Honestly, the most time effective thing, and as everyone will tell you, is just to do the Crystal Tower. The Bozja critical engagements, the drop rate isn't super high, and if you really only have so much time to play a day, right, Crystal Tower is the best way. Specifically, Crystal Tower, the second raid, Circus Tower, it takes like 8 to 10 minutes to do, and people are queuing for it like crazy and just blowing through that thing. So you can get all 15, or what is it, 18? I believe it's 15 of your crystals very easily. If you are doing multiple weapons though, I would highly suggest going into Bozja for a bit and just grinding some out, getting a couple of them at least through that, while picking up all the other quests prior, right? Because while you're working on the last step, you can work on the steps before with other weapons, right? So you can get the 3 memories one, right, where you have to collect the 3 different colors, and on top of that, that stacks with the one where you have to do the 6 dungeons, so you get the green ones from that, and then you're stacking that with the Crystal Tower ones that you can also get from Castrum as well, and then of course the critical engagement. So when you're doing a lot of fates and critical engagements, your log is kind of popping off. Like, you're getting a lot of stuff while you're doing it, and it kind of makes it feel a lot more worthwhile. I am someone who is going to complete all of these weapons, well, not all of these weapons, but all of the ones for like my mains, right, and get them, right? So this Relic grind is a lot easier for getting multiple weapons compared to Relic grinds of the past. And yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect about it overall. The most time consuming part is the next step I'm going to talk about, is where you have to get, I forgot the name of the crystals exactly. We have to get basically 18 crystals from either the Voidar quests, the raid quests or raid dungeons, or the Rabanastre raid dungeons. Or you can get them from Girabanya Fates, which is Stormblood Fates, right? And Orthard Fates, right? Which is the Eastern Asian part of Stormblood. Basically, one half of the expansion gives you certain crystals, and the other half of the expansion gives you the other crystals. One thing though is that this step only has to be done once. You get these 18 from each side, and you never have to do it again, thus making it even easier to get multiple weapons in the future. One thing with these is that the raids on these do take up more time significantly. Void Arc is still pretty fast, but some of the bosses are a bit fucking annoying and have like phases where they like disappear, and it just eats up more time. But it is 100% guaranteed drop rate on those as well. For the Rabanastre one, the Rabanastre can take some time. It is the longest one. Specifically, you want to be doing the first raid, which is Rabanastre, right? Because the other one is a tower. But yeah, you want to do the first one on both of these. They are the fastest running things. I would generally avoid pre-made groups if you are trying to grind them out in a row, because with pre-made groups, people will do one run, and then they'll be sitting, people will leave after that first run, and then they're just sitting waiting for more people to fill the party. While meanwhile, if you have a healer or a tank, or even maybe a DPS, because there's a lot of these runs, you could just run them back to back. You don't have to be waiting, sitting there for people to fill a party. And generally, everyone going in there knows how to play the game and is pretty able to crank out damage, because they want these things too. But other than that, the drop rate on the Fates isn't too bad actually, but there are 2 areas you really want to do these fates in. For the ones in Garabanya, you want to go to the locks. It is the highest level zone in the game, and so when you level sync down, you actually level sync down to 70, meaning you keep all your level 70 stats and you just wreck shit. So you're just going through these fates and just destroying them, right? They're not an issue. You can solo bosses, they just melt. And of course, focus on boss fates because they're the ones that take the least time and you can just blast through them, quite literally. For the ones in Orthard, the Doma area, you want to go to Azem Step, specifically the southwest portion of Azem Step where there's a bunch of level 66 fates, because there's nothing higher than that in the whole area from what I believe. So whenever you sink down, these are the only ones that actually keep you around level 70, and you want to go down and especially if you're soloing, crank those fates out, right? They spawn pretty regularly down in the southwest. Anything level 66 will keep you level 70, and again, just you fucking bulldoze through those fucking things. The other fates you can kind of do that are out and about, you know, to the northeast, east, and northwest, kind of fill time if there's empty sockets. But yeah, they take up more time just because you're not a powerhouse at level 69 or whatever the hell it's sinking you down to. So this southwest portion of SM Steps is pretty damn good. And yeah, like sometimes you'll, at most, I did have a run today where it took a while to get a crystal, but then I got like 2 or 3 back to back. So it's not as bad as Atma's, nowhere near as bad as Atma's. But yeah, there's some randomness. So it's really you're choosing between, hey, I can do this really repetitive thing and make sure I get one every run, or I can do this, you know, somewhat monotonous thing. It is not very hard and my chances could vary, right? Like, hey, it's not as repetitive, but it is not a guaranteed drop either. But I can crank a lot of these out a lot quickly and I might get lucky. And that's what I did, right? I kind of just did a mixture of the two. When I was feeling up to like, hey, I want to make sure I progress something, I'm going to do a run right now. Okay. And then later in the day, it's like, hey, I'm not so tied down for time. I don't need to make sure I get one of these. So let me do some fates. And I got like 2 or 3 of them in like an hour or so. And you just kind of course, it's a roll of the dice, of course. But yeah, you definitely have to approach it that way, right? You don't burn yourself out running this shit 16 times in a row. It's crazy. It was never intended to do that. But of course, some of you are gonna fucking do that anyways. But yeah, just kind of having a mixture of the two, and you'll see results. You will progress towards it. Don't worry if they're not dropping. They will drop. It's gonna happen. Don't worry. Yeah, just crank out those fates. You just want to do as many fates as fast as possible. And then with the raids, when you want consistent progress, then yeah, just do a raid every now and then. And I feel like that is the best approach to it. And again, you only have to do this step once. You never have to fucking do this step again. After that, the next step is more of the pain in the ass, right? Delubrum Normal, you do have to do 15 times. Or do Palace of the Dead. But every 10 floors of Palace of the Dead has a chance of dropping a crystal for you. Wow, Delubrum will, you know, every run, you're gonna get a crystal. I would honestly just avoid doing Delubrum until you get to this step, because I want to get that judge gear anyways, so I'm gonna be fucking running it anyways. I want that hairstyle and probably make a bunch of money off of it. So definitely kind of just save Delubrum for the end there. Maybe just do your weekly until you get to that step, and yeah, do it that way. And yeah, again, I'm planning on doing a mixture of those two. I am pretty much at that step at this point. And yeah, it just compared to overall feelings on it, I think this Relic grind is fine. The new Bozji content, even though it's not all wrapped around the Relic, right? Everything about Bozji has been really cool and interesting, and I've had a blast doing this whole side content thing, and then kind of getting a weapon out of it, right? And then the new raid and all that stuff. And it's a lot more enjoyable than, you know, Eureka ever was. A lot more enjoyable than Heaven's Word and the fucking light farming ever was. And the stupid books back in freaking A Realm Reborn, right? Here, you're at least you're always building on something. You're always constantly getting progress compared to something that is, you know, fucking the Atmas way back when, and the light grinding and all that shit you had to keep track of, and then do 1,000 Garuda runs or some shit. No. And then like the Alexandrite, and oh my god, the steps from the past, and now they're nerfed, right? They're way easier. Just looking back on it, right? That shit was crazy. But back then we didn't have as much to do, not much side content, what have you. But yeah, overall I feel like this Relic grind is kind of like just totally fine. If you want that shiny weapon, you're gonna have to put some fucking work into it, but it also makes it so that subsequent weapons are much easier to get, which is incredibly awesome. A Realm Reborn, I don't even fucking touch anymore. I never try to get those weapons. It is too much. A Heavensward's like a bit more reasonable, right? But there's a bunch of steps that are giant blocks, and they're really annoying. So like it's really hard to get multiple of those weapons. In Eureka, you could kind of get multiple weapons as you played because you were in fucking Pago so long that you would probably already made another weapon by the time you fucking, you know, finish your first one. So it kind of worked out there, but people still do that content, but I think people are more focused on Baja right now. And yeah, just making some secret weapons is kind of tough, especially like in Eureka, you had to kill those specific bosses to upgrade those weapons. And I still need 4 crystals from that fucking dragon Hydatos to finish my red mage weapon, but I don't know if, like, there's no way for me to log in and be like, oh, this dragon is definitely spawning. I'm definitely going to progress on this compared to this weapon where I log on progress. But yeah, leave a comment below on how you feel about this relic grind overall. How many have you made so far? Are you finished with it? But how do you feel about like having to do Delubrum and all that stuff? Or how did your, you know, Palace of the Dead runs go? And what was your experience like? Other than that, subscribe, like. My name is Adrian from my channel Random Drop, and I'll see you next time.